He collapsed on set. Day 90, the cameras stopped rolling. Ron Howard, the man who'd been working since he was 18 months old, finally hit the wall. They rushed him off the Apollo 13 set while the crew stood frozen. Dehydration, hypertension. His body had given up before his mind would, but that wasn't rock bottom. 6 years earlier, he'd made a choice that would haunt him for decades. He kissed his newborn daughter goodbye and disappeared to Ireland for 6 months. When he came back, she didn't recognize him. His oldest daughter barely remembered him, and his wife had survived alone, holding their family together while he chased another film. This is the story Ron Howard never wanted to tell. Ron Howard opened his eyes on March 1st, 1,954 inches, Duncan, Oklahoma, into a world that was already a stage. His father, Rance, had changed his last name for Hollywood 6 years earlier. His mother, Jean, was a trained actress. Before Ron could form sentences, he was standing under hot lights on the set of Frontier Woman at just 18 months old. Most kids learn to walk. Ron learned where to hit his marks. When Ron turned 6, everything changed. October 3rd, 1960 became the night America met Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show. But something happened behind the scenes that nobody knew about. After the first read-through, Rance Howard walked up to the producers and told them the father-son dialogue felt fake. Andy Griffith listened. They shook hands on a promise Opie and Andy's relationship would mirror Ron and Rance's real bond. That handshake built the soul of the show. For 8 seasons, Ron didn't just act. He lived inside a television childhood while his real one slipped away. The money came in, low hundreds per episode at first, climbing as the show exploded. Fans stopped him in Burbank asking for autographs while he was still losing baby teeth. But behind the smile, Ron was trapped. He called it a golden cage, safe but sealed. While other kids played baseball in sandlots, Ron did math problems near Stage 40 at Desilu Studios. California law mandated 3 hours of school, 8 hours total per day. A welfare worker watched nearby, but there were no real classmates. Just grips rolling dollies, prop guys adjusting lights, Andy Griffith playing guitar during lunch breaks. They tried to make it normal, but normal was already gone. During the 4th season, Ron filmed what would become one of the most memorable episodes. Opie the Birdman required 9-year-old Ron to play a scene where Opie raises orphaned baby birds after accidentally killing their mother. No dramatic tricks. He just stood there, breathing, blinking, letting real emotion lead. Director Bob Sweeney barely needed retakes. Andy Griffith called it adult-level timing. Ron used a technique called substitution. If the scene needed sadness, he'd think of something that actually hurt. Then he'd let it go when the camera stopped. That wasn't just talent, that was control most adults don't have. But the control came at a cost nobody saw. The Andy Griffith Show aired its final episode in April of 1968. Ron was 14. He'd spent his entire childhood 48 feet from a camera lens. When they took down the Mayberry sets, something inside him shifted. He didn't want to be cute anymore. He wanted control. 6 years later, Ron became Richie Cunningham on Happy Days, America's favorite teenager. But 3 years into the show, he was 23 years old, still playing a high school kid frozen in time. Vietnam was burning on every news channel. The world was changing, and Richie Cunningham never noticed. Ron wrote a 3-page memo to ABC. He wanted real stories. He pitched an episode about Richie facing the draft. They said no. Too political. Too risky for advertisers. So Ron got his compromises. Newspapers about the war in the background. A passing comment about deferments. He told TV Guide he felt like he couldn't breathe. That's when the shift happened. Ron didn't just want to act anymore. He wanted to direct. In October of 1977, he got his shot with a Happy Days episode called A Date with Fonzie, his first time behind the camera. The budget was $10,000. The timeline was 3 days for 32 scenes. He showed up with a shot list so detailed the crew called it Spielberg level. One tracking shot through Arnold's Diner lasted 90 seconds. Most directors would need hours. Ron nailed it in 2 takes. Saved $3,000. Ratings jumped 12%. 31 million people watched. ABC gave him 2 more episodes. Then came the real test. That same year, Ron made a deal with legendary B-movie producer Roger Corman. He'd act in Eat My Dust only if Corman let him direct the next film. The result was Grand Theft Auto. With a budget of just over $600,000, they destroyed 70 cars on camera, a $40,000 Rolls-Royce, 3 Cadillacs, 7 police cars. They shot on real roads near Victorville without permits. The chaos was real. The film made $15 million, a 2,400% return. Nobody laughed at the kid from Mayberry anymore. By the mid-'80s, Ron was proving himself as a serious director. Splash paired Tom Hanks with Daryl Hannah in a mermaid love story that grossed nearly $70 million on a budget under $11 million. The mermaid tale weighed 35 pounds. Daryl Hannah shot every underwater scene herself, no stunt double. But the original ending was different. Madison returns to the ocean, Alan stays on land. They're separated forever. Test audiences hated it. Every wife in the screening room walked out furious, so Ron changed it. Alan dives in after her. Love wins. The movie became a massive hit. And Ron learned a lesson that would come back to haunt him. Sometimes you have to sacrifice the truth for the story. The following year, Ron and Brian Grazer founded Imagine Entertainment. Within 12 months, they went public. TriStar Pictures signed on, then Showtime, then the Movie Channel. By the late 90s, their Century City offices got a $4.5 million makeover. People whispered about the spending. But the numbers spoke louder. Over 43 Oscar nominations, 198 Emmys across decades, more than $15 billion in worldwide box office. But success has a price nobody talks about. When Ron took on Apollo 13 inches the mid-90s, he demanded perfection. He bought actual NASA mission control panels from government surplus for $1 each. They filmed over 600 zero-gravity scenes aboard the Vomit Comet. Each scene lasted 23 seconds. That meant 10 days of parabolic flight dives. The explosion scene with Ed Harris cost $340,000 and took 12 takes. One test went wrong and singed Harris's eyebrows. Ron refused to fake anything. Every switch position, every radio call, every blinking light had to be perfect. He worked 18-hour days for 90 straight days. He sat through NASA briefings, watched every reel, led night rehearsals. Then came day 90. Ron collapsed. The set went silent. Production stopped for 36 hours. When he returned, the crew wore shirts that said Mission Control. It wasn't just a movie anymore. It was proof that perfection has a breaking point. The film made $355 million worldwide, 9 Academy Award nominations, 2 wins. But the real cost was still coming. Ron's daughter Jocelyn was born in the spring of 1991. 1 year later, he left for Ireland to film Far and Away, 6 months away from home, the longest he'd ever been separated from his family, from his wife Cheryl, from Bryce, from his newborn. When he came home, everything had changed. Jocelyn had grown. Bryce barely remembered him. Cheryl had been parenting alone, holding their world together while Ron chased another film. The moment shook him to his core. He promised never to take long international shoots again. He kept that promise. Mostly, years later, during the production of Cinderella Man, extensive reshoots pulled him away again. He missed more of Bryce's life. The guilt never left. But there was something else Ron didn't talk about for years. His brother, Clint, also a child actor, also shaped by Hollywood. But while Ron rose, Clint fell. Throughout the 80s, Clint collapsed into cocaine and alcohol addiction. By the time the 90s arrived, he was at rock bottom. Ron gave him an ultimatum: rehab or lose the relationship. Clint chose life. In their 2021 memoir, The Boys, Ron made a confession that surprised everyone. He felt guilty. His own success had made Clint feel left behind. While Ron won Oscars, Clint was fighting to survive, and Ron had been too busy to notice until it was almost too late. When November 25th, 2017 arrived, Ron lost the person who mattered most. Rance Howard died at 89. The man who taught Ron everything: how to act, how to listen, how to find truth in a scene. The Depression-era farm boy who changed his name and chased a dream all the way to Hollywood. He'd been in nearly everything Ron directed: Apollo 13, Splash, A Beautiful Mind, Parenthood. When Rance died, Ron lost the one person who understood what it cost to live this life. Today, Ron Howard has been married 50 years. He's co-run Imagine Entertainment for 4 decades with Brian Grazer. Over 50 films, 47 Oscar nominations, 289 Emmy nods, a net worth over $200 million. But in his 50th anniversary interview, he donated a bench to John Burroughs High School where he first met Cheryl. And he made a quiet confession. He still regrets missing so much. The dinners, the birthdays, the ordinary moments that make up a life. Cheryl nodded. Their rule still stands. No work, talk at dinner. But she wished he had seen the cost earlier. Ron Howard sacrificed his childhood to become Opie Taylor. Then he sacrificed his family's time to become one of Hollywood's greatest directors. He spent 50 years chasing perfection, and he's finally admitting what it cost. The golden cage doesn't open just because you're the one holding the key. If this story hit you, hit that subscribe button. We're uncovering the truth behind Hollywood's biggest legends, the stories they don't want to tell, the prices they paid in private. Drop a comment and tell me which Hollywood icon we should investigate next, because behind every perfect image, there's always a darker truth.